But first, on earth as vampire sent, thy corpse shall from its tomb be rent, then ghastly haunt thy native place, and suck the blood of all thy race. This is some pretentious fucking wine. You know, I thought that it would taste like blood.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight.
Hello, my lovelies. Since it is the first day of Halloween, I figured that it would be fitting to dedicate this entire month to all things gruesome and wholesome. I can't exactly call this channel Carnival Grotesque without doing something interesting in October. So I figured I would start this month off with some Halloween-themed drinks and a creepy-ass bucket list of mine. This is, of course, the condensed version. I don't have nearly enough wine to go over my entire list. Do I even have enough wine to go over this list? Uh-oh.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
The House on the Rock is a massive piece of modernist architecture that also happens to be one giant hoax. All of the exhibits are completely fabricated, but honestly, that doesn't really matter. It is one of the largest and most intricate pieces of installation art in the world, and that is fucking awesome. It was designed by Alex Jordan Jr. and houses the world's largest indoor carousel that features 269 carousel animals and over 20,000 lights. There is an infinite room with over 3,000 windows, a massive sculpture of a giant squid fighting a whale, and tons of historical items such as armor and lamps and instruments and so many other things. It was also one of the places mentioned in Neil Gaiman's American Gods that was supposed to be a portal into the minds of the gods, and the carousel was supposed to be the portal into the Allfather's mind. Anyone who says that they don't want to go is a motherfucking liar.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
The Museum of Sepulchral Culture opened in 1992 and is a giant collection of all things dedicated to the Western burial. Included in their collection are elaborately painted coffins and skulls, death masks, gilded hearses, and all sorts of other different items pertaining to, well, death. This impulse to preserve ourselves and loved ones, both as a celebration of their lives and just as a constant reminder of our own mortality, has always been really interesting to me. It gets me in trouble sometimes. Like when my grandmother thinks that I'm a sociopath, or when my stepdad thinks that I need therapy because I wear a lot of black lipstick and I talk about death like a close personal friend or relative. Sorry, Mom.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
What big-titted goth girl hasn't wanted to visit Sleepy Hollow? What about the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery in Concord, Massachusetts? Established in 1855, this beautiful plot of land acts as the final resting place for people such as Nathaniel Hawthorne, Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Louisa May Alcott. It's so beautiful and so intimate and so quiet, and it's definitely one of those places that when I heard about it, I knew that I wanted to go there and have a picnic. Be awesome. I'll bring wine and grilled cheese, and it'll be great.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
Gallows Hill is located just north of Visby in Sweden. It was built in the 13th century and is said to be the only preserved medieval execution site in Europe. The gallows are these stone pillars where wooden pillars would have been attached to them and people would have hanged from ropes and hooks as part of their execution. It was located just outside of the town so that people coming into town would see them and would know not to be a criminal or else you go on the gallows. It's even believed that the gallows remained in use until 1845. During an archaeological dig in 2008, up to 30 skeletons were found buried around the area that were most likely the corpses of the executed. Lots of wholesome fun. Bring the kids.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
I first discovered this place while I was researching some ideas for a self-portraiture series in college. Yeah, don't ask how that happened. It's better left in ambiguity. Anyway, I originally came across the artwork made by the patients, and even some of the staff that's just made up of collections from the patients, like an entire cabinet full of 10,000 cigarette packages and stacks of papers and letters written by delusional patients. The pieces that really stuck out to me when I was originally doing my research was this towel that was embroidered by somebody with paranoid schizophrenia, and it includes lots of different thoughts and this like stream of consciousness like documentation of what was going on in their head, forever embroidered on a towel. Then there was this mosaic, or I think there's more than one mosaic, I'm honestly not sure, that's made out of the contents of a patient's stomach who had compulsive swallowing. They would swallow like nails and pins and pennies and all sorts of things, and eventually their stomach would burst because it had all these different sharp objects. Like, it was awful. It's so painful to think about, and somebody decided that they were gonna make a beautiful mosaic out of these objects. Just good old fun for the whole family.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
The Mutter Museum is a medical museum located in Philadelphia. It houses nearly 1,500 wet specimens and well over 3,000 osteological specimens. Considering I only own 2 wet specimens and only a handful of osteological ones, I'd say that's one big-ass fucking collection. You know what else they have there? Albert Einstein's brain. I want to go so bad. I'm gonna need more wine. Oh, speaking of wine.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
Saint Catherine was a nun and an artist born in 1413. Even though she died in 1463, she wasn't officially canonized until 1712. Inside an Italian church, behind a wooden door, is a golden throne where sits the corpse of Saint Catherine of Bologna, the patron saint of artists. According to the sisters who exhumed her body a couple of weeks after her burial, she was still flexible and sweet-smelling, which many believe that meant that her body, and therefore her soul and her person, was incorruptible, and so they put her on this golden throne for the last 500 years. If I could only get to see one reliquary in my entire life, it would be St. Catherine of Bologna.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
The Sedlec Ossuary is a small chapel in Sedlec in the Czech Republic. Because of the sheer volume of bodies, because of the Black Death and the Bohemian Wars, there was not enough room in the cemeteries, so the monks decided to use the corpses and the bones to adorn the walls of the chapel. It is estimated that the remains of 70,000 people are housed within the Sedlec Ossuary. And damn, what a way to have your remains displayed. Hey, honey.
Yeah?
Come here. When I die, will you put my remains and make a chandelier out of it? Because that'd be awesome.
I don't even know where to begin with that.
Oh, and then when you die, in your will, you can write down that our kids have to put your remains in the chandelier, and then we just have this massive chandelier of us and our family. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Spooky, scary skeletons send shivers down your spine.
In 2000, Henning Christoph founded the Soul of Africa Museum in Essen, Germany. It is a beautiful collection of artifacts and artwork that document the culture and the vibrancy of Western voodoo, considering that we don't get tasteful or even accurate representation of voodoo culture here in the US. It's definitely a museum that all of us should probably go and visit at least once. You know, on second thought, everybody in Oklahoma should just avoid it altogether, because you'll probably just embarrass us. Or, you know, you could take an anthropology class before you go. That's something. Or, you know, read a book that doesn't have King James embossed in gold on the cover.
Spooky, scary skeletons send shivers down your spine.
Ever since I was little, I have wanted to visit Salem, Massachusetts. I had always been interested in the history and psychology around the Salem witch trials as a kid, probably because I dived headfirst into paganism and I read every little black book I can get my grubby little hands on. They were women of faith, of course. There were no real witches present, at least not in the, you know, stereotypical way that we would think of them. You know, there was no... What we think of as witches today are really just people who used herbal remedies and wrote in journals. Talked about their dreams. Owned cats. Everybody on Tumblr is a witch by that definition. The Salem witch trials were a very close to home example of the Inquisition. Salem is marketed as this witch town that's full of occult shops and fortune tellers, but really the Salem witch trials more accurately highlights mob mentality and the systemic oppression of free-thinking women. And that has, in turn, helped us free-thinking pagan women in the 21st century. Thanks, Puritans! The Rebecca Nurse homestead is still standing to this day. It is a 2-story first period home that's preserved like a time capsule to the era. Rebecca Nurse, who was 71 at the time of her trial, was described as being a woman of dignity at the gallows. And because of the circumstances, she was considered unfit for a Christian burial. So they just buried her in a mass grave right outside the gallows. In the dead of the night, her family came and dug her body up, took her back to the Rebecca Nurse homestead, and buried her in the cemetery there. Later, her descendants erected a monument to her as this sort of tombstone, and they engraved a beautiful tribute to her. The monument reads, Rebecca Nurse, Yarmouth, England, 1621. Salem, Massachusetts, 1692. A Christian martyr who for truth could die, when all about thee owned the hideous lie. The world redeemed from superstition's sway is breathing freer for thy sake today. That's just awesome. That has been my bucket list of creepy fucking places that I would like to visit before I die. Anyway, that's been about it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that you will like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna finish my wine and then escape into the ether and maybe crawl into my fridge and see if there's any food there. Goodbye, my lovelies. Mwah!
Spooky, scary skeletons send shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight. Spooky, scary skeletons speak with such a screech. You'll shake and shudder in surprise when you hear these zombies shriek.
Galgabret Gallows. Baguette bread gallows. I'm just gonna call it Gallows Hill, because I don't know how to fucking pronounce it. You're an idiot, Melissa.